Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. It is ICR Daredevil back with another video in our WCW What If series in TEW 2020. It is the night after World War III, and thankfully I'm feeling at least a little bit better, as you can tell by the little bit more enthusiastic intro. So we are doing the thing. We are officially on the road to Starrcade 1997, which will be huge. I have some big plans in motion that we need to get going with it. And we're going to dive right into things here today. You'll notice there's a lot of workers who aren't necessarily going to be here as much today on this show because a lot of them are fatigued as hell after that World War III pay-per-view. But we still have 17,544 people showing up at the Rosemont Horizon for this episode of Nitro, which features Bret Hart coming down to the ring. And he says that him and Flair have been exchanging words, not just for weeks now, not just for months. They've been doing it for years now. It's been going back for quite some time now, ever since Ric Flair stood atop of the mountain in the professional wrestling world and Bret Hart wanted that spot. He was a young up-and-comer. He wanted that opportunity. Flair came to the other company for a little bit, and he wanted to face him. And he was never really given much of a chance to interact with him too much there. Flair always big leagued him when he was there. And the New World Order, they came here to WCW not just to target Ric Flair, not just to target the Horsemen, not to destroy WCW, but to change WCW, to get it back from the 80s and bring it into the current generation. It is 1997, and this company still operates as if it's still the 1980s, especially having guys like Ric Flair on top. Bret Hart says that the New World Order's, this whole time, the New World Order has been accused of wanting to destroy WCW, but that's not been the case. They don't want to destroy WCW. They want to rebuild WCW. There's a huge difference. Now comes Roddy Piper, who says that you sure have one hell of a way of going about trying to rebuild WCW, if that's what you're claiming you're doing. You've been attacking wrestlers for months now, putting them on the injured reserve, putting them on the shelf, constantly attacking people. Our former world champion was put on the shelf because of you, Brian Pillman. You put Randy Savage on the shelf. Well, the Horseman did, but he's blaming Hart here as well. You've been putting out top stars here in WCW for quite some time because of your actions, whether directly or indirectly. He says, I'm glad that the Horsemen stepped up to take on the New World Order because the New World Order needs to be flushed from this company for good. Bret Hart just kind of chuckles and says, you of all people, Piper, represent what I'm talking about. You still living like it's back in the 80s. You still think that you're relevant in 1997. You think that the role that you have here in WCW, you think that means anything to anyone? It was simply a gift given to you by the board of directors who are still existing back in the 80s as well. The board of directors who still seem to think that professional wrestling is all about good versus bad, good versus evil, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if you've noticed, Piper, the NWO were supposed to be the bad guys. We're the ones that we're the evil ones supposedly. We're the bad ones supposedly. And yet, I know you've noticed it. These people, they're starting to cheer for the New World Order. They're starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, the New World Order have a point to what we've been saying for months now. Piper goes, you know what? You want to pretend that you're supposed to be some sort of savior for this company, some sort of savior for professional wrestling? You want to pretend that that's what you're supposed to be doing? You can go right ahead and you can think that. You can pretend in your mind that that's what you're doing. Me, though, I say the truth. I've known you for quite some time, Brett, and I know the truth. I know when you're speaking out your ass, and this is just one of those times you're speaking out your ass. But I want to bring things back just a second because of what I was saying. People being put on the shelf, whether directly or indirectly, because of you and your group. See, you've made a lot of enemies here in WCW. And one of them contacted me after World War III last night. And he said he was ready to be back in the ring once again. And immediately, I knew that he needed to face you. So tonight, in the main event here on WCW Monday Nitro, it's going to be Bret Hart going one-on-one with the returning Eddie Guerrero. And the crowd pops for that as Bret just stands there in a little bit of shock on his face and then kind of smirks. Says, okay, it's time for you to truly see what is existing around you. So, interesting comment there, especially that last comment by Bret Hart. But there you go. Big main event, as it's going to be Bret Hart versus Eddie Guerrero one-on-one, the returning Eddie Guerrero. And on top of that, we get some interesting comments from Bret Hart. Is the New World Order actually trying to rebuild and save WCW? They've been kind of saying that this whole time, but the way they've been going about it, everybody just kind of automatically believed that they were just trying to destroy the company, but maybe they're not actually trying to destroy the company. We're not sure what's going on here. 99 rating for this promo, though. Very good stuff. As we have ourselves one hell of a main event here tonight on Nitro. Then we have the text was kind of already generated in this, but essentially we have a celebration segment happening with Dustin Rhodes. Gets 100 rating, which is awesome. As Dustin Rhodes comes out, just big old smile on his face. He is loving life right now because he has, for those of you who didn't watch that episode, you should better go watch it right now before I spoil this. 1, 2, 3. He has the World War III Battle Royal victory. He gets a shot at any time over the next 12 months for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And he's just big old smile on his face. He's celebrating. Crowd, people are booing because they don't like Dustin Rhodes right now, but he's celebrating out on the stage. And he says, thank you. Now you all see truly how deserving the Natural is, how deserving I am of being a world champion here in this company. I had to deal with the fact that I was constantly having to look over my shoulder during the WCW World Title Tournament, afraid of when Booker T was going to show up and try to screw me out of the tournament, and it cost me my matchup. But now I have a shot anytime over the next 12 months. And let me tell you, I will cash that in, and I will become the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. There's not a damn thing that anybody, holding that title or not, is going to be able to do about that. 100 rated here, as it's not a long promo, but Dustin's celebrating the fact that he is the man who holds that guaranteed world title shot. We'll have to see when he ends up cashing that in. Right after that, we have a backstage segment with Booker T. He goes into Roddy Piper's office. Only got an Andy, which is kind of interesting. But he goes right into Roddy Piper's office. He says, Piper, listen. I heard what he just said. I heard him ramble in his mouth. I heard all of that stuff. Him and I, though, we need to put an end to this. I'm tired of his punk ass running around, acting like he's some great thing. He won last night. Whatever. I need to end him one-on-one. I need to end this whole thing one-on-one with him. Shut his ass up. And you know what? If I can make it happen, if you can make him defend his World War III title match against me, that'd be great as well. Piper says, you know what? I don't like Dustin Rhodes, but he did win the World War III Battle Royal fair and square. I can't exactly take that away from him. That if he wants to defend that against you, he's more than welcome to. But I can't exactly take that away from him. But I tell you what, I'll think about it. I'll think about the two of you having that match, and I'll let you know. So 90 rating here as we Piper's thinking about having Booker T and Dustin Rhodes one-on-one once again. These two have had 2 one-on-one matches so far over the last few months that they've been feuding, and they are one-on-one against each other. So will the rubber match end up happening? And if so, will that World War III title shot be on the line? We'll see about that too. Then we go to the ring for our opening contest, our actual wrestling, first wrestling segment of the night. And about that decent wrestling, not much heat. Mark Merrow defeats Christian Cage in 7:37 by pinfall of the Shooting Star Press. 66 rating for the match, 62 from Mark Merrow and 50 from Christian Cage. Mark Merrow seemed off his game with that 62, which is really disappointing. I was hoping for him to kind of help carry this match a little bit. You're going to see kind of some weird matchups happening tonight because, again, most of my roster is fatigued from last night. So, Mark Merrow and Christian Cage just happen to be two people who weren't fatigued, and so I put them in the ring against each other, and we continued it by having Raven there at ringside. He wasn't at ringside, he was out on the stage just staring down Mark Merrow while, watching the match from afar kind of thing. So there is that. I think we're fine with I think we can miss handling the change right now. It's just a gimmick change for Mark Merrow. I don't need to be pulling that off right now, so that is fine. But then after that, backstage, Gene Okerlund interviews Lance Storm. Gets an 80 rating, which is really good. And Okerlund basically says, hey, Nitro the other night, Too Cold Scorpio came out. He said he wanted a rematch with you. You've been kind of ducking him since then. What are your thoughts? Like, are you going to defend the TV title against him? Lance Storm is like, I defeated him already. I have no reason to get defend the title against him again. But if he wants to earn him a chance at my TV title, then so be it. But it won't be happening next week, because next week I'm going to be defending the TV title against someone else. But it's not going to be Too Cold Scorpio. He had his title shot, and he lost, and it's time for him to move on and stop instead of crying like he is all the time. So 80 rating here is Lance Storm refusing to give Too Cold Scorpio another shot at the title. And we'll have to see where things happen with that. Then, I don't know why this was set as backstage. This is supposed to be in the ring. What Our Rated segment. Ignore that part. What Our Rated segment as our new WCW World Heavyweight Champion Steve Austin comes out. Austin comes out to the ring, the big old on his shoulder. Big old, a smile on his face. Not like one of those, like, goofy smiles, but just, like a genuine smile on his face. Gets a microphone, he says, last night, Cactus Jack gave him one hell of a goddamn fight. One hell of a fight. And if he could have it his way, he'd fight that son of a bitch every single week for months to come. Because he knows that Cactus Jack gave him one hell of a fight. But last night, the better man won. Last night, Steve Austin won. Last night, Steve Austin achieved his dream of becoming a world champion. Now, we've had some champions who haven't been that prestigious in this company, and we've had some who have been that prestigious. We've had some great champions, and we've had some not so great champions. I'm here to tell you that I'm going to be the best goddamn WCW World Heavyweight Champion that there ever has been. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not afraid to defend this title against any single one of the people in the back. Or anyone who wants to come from a different company. I'll defend them all around the world. I'm the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. I'm going to stay the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. It does not matter who comes after me for this championship right here on my shoulder. I will retain the championship. So 100 rated segment here is Austin comes out. He's, respectful of Cactus Jack, and he says he's willing to fight anybody and everybody. So we'll have to see who's going to step up as the first, who's going to step up to Austin and get a title shot. Who's going to be the one who steps up first against him. Oof. This match didn't do so hot. Extremely short matchup. Bam Bam Bigelow defeats Chris Canyon in 446 by pinfall to powerbomb. 70 from Bigelow, 46 from Canyon. They don't seem to click, so made for an awkward bout. This is basically just a squash match. Bigelow just going out there and just squash somebody. Weirdly enough, Bigelow was not fatigued, despite the fact that he was in a tag team matchup and in the Battle Royal. He was not fatigued. So I was like, all right, well, you're going to go out there and squash somebody then tonight. So, Bam Bam Bigelow with a victory here. Not really much of note. The commentators kind of talk a little bit about Bigelow and Giant teaming up for a bit in the Battle Royal, and their recent, teaming up together recently. So it kind of talks about what might be happening there, but not much else beyond that. So, just a decisive victory for Bam Bam Bigelow here tonight on Nitro, for the former world champion, that is. Then after that, 90 rated promo. Ted DiBiase did not do well with the script follow. That's weird. All right. Roddy Piper's backstage in his office when there's a knocking on the door. Door opens, and it's Eric Bischoff and Ted DiBiase coming walking in to his office. Piper gets up from his desk, and he's like, listen, guys, I don't want to have to deal with you two. Just leave me alone for the night. Like, he's, already frustrated. Bischoff's like, I don't know why you're so upset. I mean, things are clearly going your way, right? You have a new world champion in Steve Austin. He's been this guy you've been treasuring for so long, and so much is going on for WCW right now. I don't know why you're so against us right now. Piper's like, what do you want? Bischoff's like, well, here's the thing. Me and Trillionaire Ted here. We've got some news from the board of directors. Some news that we wanted to discuss with you personally. Now, we're not going to get into an argument here. We're not going to get into a fight here. We wanted to discuss things on a civil manner. And Piper's just kind of like, you guys, being civil. Bischoff's like, trust me, you're going to want to hear what I have to say here. Ted DiBiase turns around and closes the office door on the cameraman, leaving the three men in the office left for everyone to wonder what exactly is being discussed between Roddy Piper, Eric Bischoff, and Ted DiBiase in Piper's office. We will have to see in the future what ends up happening with that. Then after that, we have a 57 rated fatal 4-way women's matchup on Nitro. The sees Mayumi Osaki defeat Nanae Takahashi, Hikari Fukuoka, and Tomoko Miyaguchi in 9:48 when Osaki pinned Fukuoka with a Hurricane. I apologize for butchering those names. Osaki carried the match. Takahashi was a weak link. 62 from Mayumi, 40 from Takahashi, 50 from Hikari, and 49 from Miyaguchi. Not a bad match there. Gets a 57 rating. Commentators kind of talk about how Osaki is, having issues with Medusa recently, but a victory like this over 3 other competitors in the women's division gets her one step closer to getting a shot at the WCW Women's World Championship. This match gets a 57. And then afterwards, Megumi Kudo is backstage, and she kind of talks about that. She kind of talks about the fact that Osaki is, definitely gearing herself up to be a potential contender, to be possibly even getting a future Women's World title match. And since Kudo doesn't really have anybody she's dealing with right now, she has no problem defending against Osaki, so that way she can prove that she is still the best women's wrestler in this company and in this business. And Medusa shows up. Medusa says, listen, I have no doubt that you and Mayumi would have a heck of a matchup, but I've got issues with her. I have to ask you to let me take care of her first. I have to ask you to let me face her first and go from there. And Kudo goes, well, I want to be a fighting champion, and if she's supposedly the best, then I'm going to face her. And Medusa's like, she's not the best. She's not better than me. I'm going to face her. And they have a little bit of a stare down with each other. Of course, they've had some history. These two did fight each other last year at Starrcade to crown the first ever WCW Women's World Champion, which was, of course, won by Megumi Kudo. And so they have a little bit of a stare down, and we're kind of left wondering what's going on here. They're kind of arguing with each other over both wanting to fight Mayumi Usaki. So we'll have to see what ends up happening with that. But it gets 58 rating. Then after that, there's a 72 rated segment here. I kind of saw that coming, but I wanted to make sure this happened this way, so there we go. As Jerry Lynn is being interviewed by Gene Okerlund, happy, bragging about the fact that he, once again, successfully retained his Cruiserweight Championship, this time against a tough young kid, Billy Kidman. Jerry Lynn says he's still waiting for that challenger to step up. He's still waiting for somebody to step up and give him one hell of a challenge. Because Kidman, no offense to the kid, he's still young. He's still very green. He's still unable to compete on a regular basis with Jerry Lynn. And Rob Van Dam didn't have what it took to compete in the ring with Jerry Lynn. He's not good enough to beat Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn is the best cruiserweight in this company and in this business. There's nobody out there that can beat him. And then that's when the music of Jushin Thunder Liger hits. And the crowd pops because, of course, everybody knows who the hell Liger is. He's been here at WCW for a little bit, but he hasn't really done a whole lot. But he comes out. He doesn't speak much English, but he apparently, according to the game, he can speak fluent English, so kind of brokenish English. But he essentially says that Lynn's not the best cruiserweight, the best junior heavyweight, the best lightweight, the best whatever you want to call it. He says that he is better than Jerry Lynn, and he wants the opportunity to prove it. Jerry Lynn just kind of laughs and says, "You want me to give you a title shot? You want me to give you a match? You think you deserve to be in the ring with someone as great as Jerry Lynn? As the true show stealer? As the true greatest cruiserweight in the world? You want me to have a match with you? Get to the back of the line, kid. You don't have a chance of even facing me, much less beating me." 72 rating here, as it seems like we're teasing between some sort of confrontation between Jerry Lynn and Jushin Liger. We'll have to see what ends up happening with that. Then we have a 69 rated promo, or 69 rated matchup, sorry. Nice rating. Not sure why I did that low, other than lack of associated storyline. Dang it, I thought I had. Alright. That's my bad. Rikishi Fatu was supposed to be watching on from the stage, but apparently I forgot to put him there. So, but about that great heat and good wrestling, Meng defeats Randy Savage surprisingly in 10:22 by pinfall. So Meng getting a victory over the former WCW World Champion here. 69 rating. Meng with a 71, who seemed off his game. 82 from Savage. Yeah, I expected this match to be better, but I kind of screwed up. Forgot to have a storyline associated with it. But Meng getting a clean victory over Savage, which is kind of interesting. The idea was that Savage was supposed to be kind of, not completely exhausted, but he was supposed to be kind of tired after last night, after the tag match, after becoming, after being one of the final, or being the final two in the Battle Royal, all that. So it's kind of that whole idea, but Meng was able to get the victory, so very big victory there for Meng. Remember the Flock getting a victory over the former WCW World Champion. Clean. So, kind of interesting to see how that plays out. Then, we have a 90 rated promo. Kind of another celebration, but this one's happening via a NWO video. It's kind of one of those black and white videos, but like it shows a big old celebration happening. And it is none other than the WCW United States Champion, Steven Regal, standing there. He says that he proved that supposed Iceman, Dean Malenko, was nothing compared to Steven Regal last night when he defeated him easily in the middle of that ring. He says he's done with Dean Malenko now. He beat the champion for the championship. Now he beat him one-on-one without any, supposed whining from Dean Malenko at this point. So he's moving on. And he says he wants to move on in a big way, in a better way. He wants to get rid of this championship. Now, don't get him wrong. He doesn't want to get rid of the fact that he is a champion. He deserves to be a champion. He deserves to be a champion here at WCW. But he doesn't want to be the champion of the United States. The United States are a bunch of fat, lazy slobs. They're a bunch of pathetic losers. Why would he want to be a champion of them when he could be a champion of so much more than that? So soon, you will see what he means simply by that. 90 rating, as we're left wondering what exactly Steven Regal is referring to. Is he planning on getting rid of the United States Championship? Is he planning on renaming it? What's he planning on doing exactly? We're not sure, but 90 rating here, as Steven Regal is celebrating the fact that he was able to conquer Dean Malenko last night, conquer him, beat him, whatever. And now he apparently has plans for this championship. We'll have to see what that ends up being. And then the main event gets a 95 rating. Definitely is going to help save the match portion of the show. As an exceptional matchup, Bret Hart defeats Eddie Guerrero in 14:37. When Eddie Guerrero was disqualified after Ric Flair ran in and attacked Bret Hart. 96 from Bret Hart, 81 from Eddie Guerrero. Still working through his injury, but he benefited from having a hot new move despite the fact that he hasn't been seen since April. But he 95 rating for the matchup. Let's see. Yeah, he's penalized for being rusty as well because of the time he was off. But so that's what I kind of figured. That's why he had that 81. Yeah, he's still unfortunately still working through his actual injury. He had the kayfabe injury, which took him off TV for a while. He's still working through his actual injury, the hip thing that he was dealing with from before. He has another 2 months for that, so that's still going to be a thing that we're going to have to deal with for another couple months in this save. But nevertheless, a 95 rated matchup to end Nitro, to end the wrestling portion of Nitro, as Bret Hart gets the victory by disqualification after Ric Flair decided to come out and attack Bret Hart. The two obviously having a lot of words for each other recently. Flair still trying to get a piece of Bret Hart at this point. Even though he beat him at Halloween Havoc, he still wants a piece of him. And afterwards, Hart gets attacked by Ric Flair, but Ric Flair gets turned around and Eddie Guerrero gets in his face as Bret Hart is able to sneak away with this distraction. Eddie gets in his face, and we don't really hear what's being said, but it looks like it's a very heated words being exchanged back and forth between Eddie and Flair before Eddie just kind of he doesn't really flip him off or anything like that, but he clearly looks like he is upset and just kind of, it's one of, I guess in this case it's one of those things where he goes to leave the ring and he just nudges Flair with his shoulder, kind of spinning Flair around over as he quickly leaves the ring. So obviously Eddie very upset the fact that his big return match was spoiled by the fact that Ric Flair came running in and attacked Bret Hart, causing a disqualification. But yeah, 82 rating here, as now, it seems like, even with Eddie Guerrero returning, it seems like he's got some issues with Flair, and he's obviously not going to be happy about the fact that he lost this matchup by disqualification to Bret Hart, because he wanted, obviously probably wanted a big victory over Bret Hart, but Bret Hart was able to sneak away with a disqualification victory, so there you go. Nitro this weekend in 93, not bad at all. Not too bad at all. I'll take that. Increased our popularity in 27 regions as well. So there's that. So there you go. We have some interesting storylines coming out of World War III, especially with this episode of Nitro. We had the of course. Son of a bitch. We have the Eric Bischoff, Ted DiBiase, and Roddy Piper's meeting, apparently. Figuring out what's going on with that. Booker T wants a match with Dustin Rhodes. We'll have to see if that ends up happening. Jushin Thunder Liger wants a match with Jerry Lynn. We'll have to see if that ends up happening. Eddie Guerrero and Ric Flair obviously have some issues now because of what happened there. There's a lot of stuff happening. A lot of stuff happening indeed. Before we go over everything, there's a reason why I said that before I clicked off over the thing. We had an incident with Randy Savage. This time he got popped for hard drugs. Now before, he got sent to rehab because he tested positive for hard drugs. So even after we sent him to rehab, he still got popped for hard drugs. We've sent him to rehab already, and he still got popped for hard drugs. So I already went to rehab once. I don't know if I really want to write him off again. I just got him back. I already kind of had some plans for him. And if I send him away again, depending how long it ends up being, I might not be able to use him that much when he comes back. Because he is on a decline right now for sure. He has been declining a fair amount. I can show you this because there's not really anything spoiler-wise for our roster right now. His skills, he's 62 stamina now. He's dropped over the last year from 71 down to 62 now. All of his other skills are still really good, and we just saw he had, a good performance in the ring, but his stamina's heading downhill, and he's getting to that point where he's not going to be able to keep doing the thing for much longer. So I don't know. I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do, because I was hoping sending him to rehab would have made him a former user, but apparently he's still using, so we'll have to see what we end up doing here. But let's look at Saturday night real quick, and then we'll look at the ratings for the night. Saturday night, got a 62. As we just had a lot of promos. It was basically just a lot of like segments of getting people over a little bit more. We did have Dynamite Kensai, former women's world champion, defeat Mary Apache. And then we also had Rikishi Fatu and Samu defeat the Caribbean Express in the main event. But a lot of it was just, promos from both teams in the main event. A lot of like managers talking to their clients kind of thing. Just kind of building up some people who don't have that good of popularity right now that I really wanted to get some popularity built behind for them. So it's kind of what Saturday night was at this point. Ratings for the night. Fourth on the night, 9.3 million people watching, just behind ER. Raw had a 74 with 3.3 million people watching. Had Rotor Animal defeat Yokozuna to retain the Intercontinental title. So there's that. But yeah, there was all of that. So I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do about Randy Savage. Oops. Slight spoilers there on some stuff there. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do about Savage. His contract still has another 5 months left to it too. So at this point, if I send him to rehab, he probably won't be back in time for his contract to be up, and then it'll be even more of, do I keep him around or do I let him go kind of thing. He's really super popular right now. And even with his stamina declining, he's still doing at least decent in-ring performances. 82 is not necessarily just decent, but it's good for like an upper mid-card talent. It's not, main event level talent for sure. So I don't know. I have to figure out if I'm going to send him to rehab or what I'm going to do exactly. Because I don't like the idea of just ignoring that. Because then I feel like the game mechanic would be like, oh, well, then you're okay with anybody doing hard drugs, doing that stuff, but we'll see. We will see what ends up happening for sure. But that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you all for watching, and we will catch you in this series next Monday for another episode of Nitro. And on the channel, we'll catch you tomorrow for another video.